Hi. On this vlog, I've created a few posts on the ideas from the Assertiveness Workbook. Now, one of the assumptions underlying assertiveness training is that the assertive communication style works better than the alternatives: passivity, aggression, or passive aggressiveness. But that begs a question, doesn't it? If it's so much better, why don't we use it automatically? Why aren't we assertive all the time? Even behavioral theory would support this. If you reward a certain behavior, or technically reinforce it, it should become more common. So you act passively and you get lousy results, not much reinforcement. And every so often you act assertively and the results tend to be better. That's a kind of reinforcement. You'd expect assertive behavior to become gradually more common with time, and eventually maybe you would be doing it constantly. Well, one reason that doesn't happen is that assertiveness takes thought and planning. We're pretty unlikely to come up with perfect assertive responses just by accident. But even when people know the skills, they sometimes don't use them. So why not? In the book, I give a number of reasons, and I won't cover them all here. But one of them is what I call the history problem. Often the people you want to be assertive with are people you've known a long time. You've had a lot of interactions with them, and they're used to your usual style. They know that if they say, "Hey, what movie do you want to see?" you're going to say, "Anything you'd like." If they say, "I'm taking the car today," you'd say, "Uh-huh." If they say, "I need $1,000 for my drug habit," you'd say, "Here you go." They know they couldn't count on everyone to be like this, but it's how you are. Always. It's like we don't expect the cat to bark. If it did, we'd be surprised. But the dog always barks, so we expect that. Let's say you always cave in and let people cross your boundaries. So we expect that. So now you go to an assertiveness training course and you learn all these great strategies, and you come home and you put them into action. They say, "What movie do you want to see?" And you say, "I'd like to see the new Bond film." Now suddenly you've just violated their expectations. If they asked Joanne what movie she wanted to see, they know she would speak up, but not you. So this is an unexpected event. When something is familiar, we don't spend a lot of time puzzling it out or interpreting it. Hey, why did the dog bark? Dog always barks. We don't think about it. But if the cat barks, we think, what was that all about? What's going on here? When we behave differently in a relationship, it sparks that kind of attention. Hang on, he never gets out of bed in the middle of the night. Hold it, she doesn't like winter camping. Wait a minute, Mom has never said she's had a date in her life. So we pay attention. We interpret it. So suddenly out of nowhere, you're expressing a preference for movies. Why? What's up? If Joanne did it, whatever. But you're different. For you to do that, you must be obsessed with this movie. Or maybe you're furious with me. Or maybe the relationship is kind of over because you're not just going along with what I want anymore. People are often uncomfortable with change. When somebody they know changes, their first impulse is to say, "Hey, change back." Before, I knew what was going on. I knew what to expect. But I don't know what this is. What do you mean you don't want me to take the car? Why aren't you giving me the drug money? There's a second aspect to this. So long as you're passive, I'm in control. I get what I want. We always see the movies I want to see. We go to the restaurants I like. We drive the route I prefer. We live in the house I picked out. Human beings love being in control. If suddenly you want to determine what movie we see, maybe it's no big deal. But where's that going? You're going to tell me what to eat too? Am I going to have to let you decide what we do half the time? You must be furious to be driven to say something like that. Maybe you're about to leave me, or maybe you want control all the time. Maybe I'm going to become your little puppy being dragged around on your leash. Gotta stop that. And the only way I have money for drugs or alcohol is because you give it to me. I ask, you hand it over. It's the way it works. If you're suddenly saying no, what am I going to do? I need to be in charge. So in all of these situations, the person you're dealing with is likely to get kind of pushy, to get you to return to the passive style and give them control again. This makes a certain amount of sense if you've usually been pretty passive. But what if you've usually been aggressive instead? You'd think they'd prefer it if you were assertive, which is usually pleasant and calm and clear. No temper tantrums. Much nicer, right? They should be thrilled. But they're still interpreting your behavior based on your history. When you really want something, you throw a temper tantrum. You yell, you get mean, you're hostile, and then everybody knows you wanted it. It's not much fun, but it's not hard to figure out. So now you're saying, oh, if you're up for it, I'd like to go away for Thanksgiving. Coming from anyone else, you'd think, oh, okay, he wants to go away for Thanksgiving. Let's talk about it. But coming from him, if he really wanted it, he'd be screaming. Or he'd just say, we're going. But this, he must not really want it that much at all. And maybe you'll just forget all about it. And then it'll look like assertiveness doesn't work. And the only way things happen is if he throws a tantrum or takes control. In both cases, behavior that would normally get taken as a pretty straightforward case of assertive communication gets overinterpreted. Well, okay, whose fault is that? It's easy for us to blame them. You'd take this at face value from anyone else, but not me. You have no respect for me at all, or my feelings. But why do they expect us to be different? Because we led them to expect this. We were one way for the last 5 years, and now we're changing course. We were the ones who created those expectations. So how do we deal with it? One option is to demonize them. You have no respect for me. The other is to take away the symbolic value of the event, take away the mystery, and give them the truth. Listen, I realize that I've had preferences for movies all these years, but I've been reluctant to say what they are, thinking that you would reject me for them. But it's not working for me to always be going along with you, and I've been trying to learn how to stand up for myself some more. So I'm speaking up. And it doesn't mean that I don't like you, or that I'm mad, or that I resent you so much for choosing the movies. Somebody had to do it. But if you ask, I'm going to try to answer for real. We don't have to do what I want all the time. It's a compromise. But I need to stop pretending that I don't have any preferences. Or, listen, I realize that I've been really pushy about things to get my own way. And that's not doing great things for our relationship. So I'm trying to learn how to say what I want without the yelling or the sarcasm or the insults. I'm not going to be perfect at this. At least not at first. And I know I'm not always going to get my way. But if I'm being reasonable, just know that it doesn't mean I don't care what happens. I'm just trying to communicate better. In our group therapy programs, we always suggested to our clients that they tell their families they were in the assertiveness class, so that the families would know where the changes were coming from. This doesn't completely eliminate the history problem. It's still an adjustment when people change, but it can take some of the edge off. And eventually you build up a new history with this new way of communicating. And eventually people know that when they ask you what you want to do on the weekend, you're probably going to say something, which is what they asked for. Now, for more information about assertiveness and for the actual skills involved, feel free to consult my book.